What is up, everybody? Purple and Gold podcast for Sunday, March 15th. LSU drops the first two games of the series in Nashville. A soul-crushing 13-12 defeat on Friday night. Vandy hit a walk-off homer off Gavin Guidry in the bottom of the ninth. And last night, a listless and lackluster performance in an 11-3 loss to Vanderbilt. LSU really needs to try to salvage a game in this series today, 3 p.m. Central on ESPN2. I'll recap a little bit of both games, and then I'll talk some big picture stuff here. So on Friday night, Case and Evans and most of LSU's pitching staff just didn't have it. They walked, I think, 11 people and hit a batter, and they trailed 10-4, and Seth Dardar came off the bench and hit a big bases loaded double, cut the lead to 10-7. Vandy's bullpen imploded. LSU eventually had to lead 12-10 after scoring 3 runs on 3 wild pitches. Went to the bottom of the ninth. Gavin Guidry gave up 2 singles. They moved those runners over. Got a sacrifice fly. It was 12-11. Runner at third, 1 out. Gavin Guidry got the needed strikeout and then gave up the 2-run homer for the loss. It was great to see LSU come back the way they did. It was great to see Chris Stanfield in the lineup and have a couple of hits. And it was great to see Zach Cowan stabilize the game out of the bullpen while LSU was coming back. It's disappointing that one of LSU's better players in Gavin Guidry couldn't hold it, because that was a game that I think if LSU holds on and wins, you probably don't see the performance you saw last night if LSU wins the game on Friday night. But that's one of the things I want to talk about. So last night's game was in some ways to be expected based on what we've seen from this team. This team hasn't shown since the Jacksonville weekend that they can put back-to-back games together. They seem to be a team that if the pitching is okay, the offense lets them down. If the offense is okay, the pitching lets them down. And they seem to be in a real tailspin right now. So let's talk about this team for a minute, and we'll do more big picture, obviously, during the week and after the game tomorrow, the game today when we talk tomorrow. But I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater 2 games into a 30-game SEC grind. But this is more than 2 games. We saw them do this in the non-conference, and I've seen a lot of people on X question things about this roster, and I've seen some of my colleagues who host these types of shows responding to people on X with sort of a blind faith in Jay Johnson and a blind faith in some of these players and a blind faith that the average sort of goofball on X doesn't know anything about roster construction. So let's talk about LSU's roster here for a minute, because before the year I came on this podcast, and many others did too. LSU was ranked number 2 in the country, and it looked like LSU had a roster that could compete for the national championship. I will ask you this, and then I will answer it. Who among LSU's players has played up to or has exceeded their expectations? Well, Jake Brown, for sure. William Schmidt, Devin Sheeran, and I guess Gavin Guidry has played to expectations. Everyone else? No. Chris Stanfield's been hurt. Fine, you excuse that. Derek Curiel's been fine, but it's not the jump you thought he was going to make. It's not a high 300s, almost 400 batting average. He's very pull happy. He's not doing a lot of the things he did last year that made him such an effective hitter. Trent Carraway's 0 for his last 14. He's down to 232. Stephen Milam is batting in the 240s. He's great on defense, but this is now a second consecutive year that we're entering SEC play, and he's nowhere near 300. Seth Dardar is 4 for his last 33. Zach York is 8 for his last 40. It hasn't been great. He hasn't homered, I think, in the last 8 games. The defense hasn't been terrible, but it hasn't maybe been what was advertised. Cade Arrambidi started out hot. He's faded. Omar Cerna had the big grand slam against Creighton. He had a nice 2-run single last night, but his defense has been shoddy at times. Not that the pitching staff has helped him. And he's looked like a freshman. Mason Braun, again, freshman, will be a fine player here, no doubt. Has not lived up to everything that we were told he was doing in the fall and pre-conference. And, he hit the big home run against Kent State earlier in the year, and he looked for all the world like he was going to be a mainstay. Looks like a role player right now. John Pearson, big summer league stats. Preseason, couple of home runs in the early conference season. They tried him at first base. Wasn't good on defense. He seems to have fallen out of favor. Tanner Reeves is batting 220-something. He left multiple runners on base in 3 at-bats on Friday night. You go to the pitching staff. Kason Evans has been fine statistically in some starts, but when it's gone bad, it's gone really bad, and he doesn't look like a Friday night starter. Cooper Moore's been fine, but the last 2 times out have been his 2 worst performances. Zach Cowan, before Friday night, a mess. Cooper Williams, a mess. Ethan Plog's been okay, but a couple of really bad outings. Last night was bad. Santiago Garcia had a good outing on Tuesday against Creighton, and he really only had the 1 bad outing early in the year against Milwaukee. I would actually say he might actually be living up to what you thought you were getting in him. So the point of me saying all of this is to say that the transfer portal has been very good to LSU, and Jay Johnson knows how to play the transfer portal better than anyone. But we did see a little bit in 2024, a little bit of a mixed bag from the transfer portal after they won the national championship in 2023. You did get Gage Jump and Luke Holman, who wound up being your Friday and Saturday starters. But Mac Bingham was supposed to be a big offensive player, and he didn't hit. They had a couple of other relief pitchers on that team that didn't do what I think people thought they were going to do. And then you look at, you flip the script to, last year's team, and Anthony Ianson was, your Saturday starter all season. And Michael Braswell, even though he had transferred in 2024, became your everyday third baseman, and you don't win the national championship without his defense. Daniel Dickinson was everything that he was cracked up to be at second base. So here's the question now going forward. Is it just that Dardar, York, Carraway, Arrambidi are all in slumps at the same time, and this is bound to turn around, and LSU will right the ship and they'll be fine? Is it just that they sort of blew that game on Friday night, and if they would have just held on in that game and the series is a 1-1 series, we're not having this discussion this morning? All fair questions to ask. I would tell you that from my point of view, and the reason why I am sounding an alarm here is I watch a lot of SEC baseball. I've got all these TVs in the Tiger Den, and I've got multiple games on all of them. I don't think Vanderbilt is anything more than a middle of the pack SEC team. So when LSU plays Mississippi State, when LSU plays Ole Miss, I think when LSU plays Oklahoma next week, I think when LSU plays Florida, it's going to take more than what it would take to split the first two games of Vanderbilt or possibly win a series here. That's not to say that this team can't have some guys get hot. Seth Dardar hit 13 home runs in the Big 12 last year. Trent Caraway hit 6 home runs in the NCAA tournament last year for Oregon State. Zach York is the career RBI leader at Grand Canyon. He's played 3 quality seasons of college baseball. Derek Curiel could get hot at any time. Cade Aaron-Beatty and Stephen Milam could get hot at any time. Kason Evans could right the ship next Thursday against Oklahoma. All of those things are possible. But I do think it's fair to question right now the leadership on this team, the emotional stability of this team, and just quite frankly, the X's and O's of this team, right? I don't think it's that they're untalented in any way, but it might just be that these guys can't play the same way they played at other schools at this level. This is the big time. This is the New York Yankees. This is Duke basketball. This is, the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, I know the Cowboys aren't great, but you get where I'm going with this. And for kids to come in, both freshmen, junior college, transfers, it's a lot, right? The intimidator is there to intimidate other teams, but it can intimidate players on LSU's team too, I suppose. Now, look, I still think you can ride Jake Brown. I still believe in Curiel. I think Stephen Milam can get hot. I really still believe in Seth Dardar. I know he's been a mess. I do have my questions a little bit about Caraway and Zach York and whether or not those guys are really the answer at those respective positions. Jay Johnson did say after the game last night, he will work very hard to get this fixed. He will work very hard to put him in a position to win games. Even if that meant personnel changes, I would expect probably some sort of personnel lineup changes today. What that would be, I don't know. They seem to be grasping a little bit at a lineup. They seem to be grasping a little bit at where to bat certain guys, how to properly construct the lineup. I think they had settled on Milam, Brown, Curiel, 1, 2, 3. Milam gives you a presence in the leadoff spot. Curiel sort of protects Jake Brown. My guess is they won't mess with that. You could go back to Curiel leading off. I think the middle part of the lineup has been what's really let them down. They don't know what to do with Zach York. He was down to 5 or 6. He's back up to 4. Like we said, Dardar's been a mess. Caraway's batted almost exclusively at the bottom. He's been a mess. I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see him in there today. Who do you see at third base? Maybe it's Seth Dardar at third base. Maybe they give somebody else, Braden. Maybe they go back to Braden Simpson or somebody at second. Braden Simpson's another one, transferred in from High Point. I know he was batting .310 before the game on Friday night, but it hasn't been great. The at-bats haven't been great. He struck out a lot. Caraway struck out a lot here lately. You would hope that Chris Stanfield being back would solidify this a little bit. And we'll go from there. I mean, I don't know, at this point in the season, I don't know that there's going to be some sort of a revelation, right? I don't know that, Daniel Harden's coming off the bench to all of a sudden be a revelation. I don't know that Braden Simpson's going to all of a sudden, be unstoppable. Do I think that some of these guys are in slumps all at the same time? Yes. Do I think some of these guys can get hot together and this can stabilize a little bit? Yes. But every single loss, especially in the SEC, the pressure is going to mount. If LSU doesn't win this game today, the pressure on Thursday night in Baton Rouge against Oklahoma. Former LSU pitcher Cam Johnson is Oklahoma's Thursday night guy, Friday night guy. The pressure in that game would be immense on LSU if they roll in there 0-3. I know I said it about the Sacramento State game on Sunday. I know I said it about the UL Lafayette game when they had lost to Northeastern the game before, but I'll say it again. This is the most important game of the year. There has to be a response today. LSU, in theory, has the pitching advantage. If William Schmidt can go out there and do what he's done the last couple of weekends, LSU's got to find a way to win this game today. And so that's what we will hope happens. Selection Sunday tonight for the women's basketball team. We did find out yesterday they are one of the 16 hosts. They will host the first and second round. We will talk tomorrow about what bracket they're in, what seed they get. I fully expect them to be a number 2 seed, and we'll see how that all shakes out and what their path to the Final Four might look like. So as always, have a great Sunday. As always, be good to one another, and always, 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 go Tigers.